Welcome to Grawlix Nights, the Grawlix Podcast live show. I'm Randy.
And I'm Jesse.
And I'm Melanie. Well, I regretted doing that instantly. I was like, that's stupid. What am I doing?
Immediately.
Melanie will be joining us later, most likely. She's out taking sunset pictures. She's following her muse.
You got to do that. We
You got to do that.
We encourage that here at the
We
podcast.
We love that here at the Grawlix Podcast. Hey, man, we got things to talk about. What those things are,
we haven't decided.
We'll work that out as we go. Thanks for joining us once again. Hey, everybody there on social media and on Helix Rock Radio at rockradio.live. How's it going? We're back. We're going to talk about some TV, some movies. I did not read a comic for this episode. But maybe comics. Who knows? That's a thing I think we should try to work back in. In fact, I know we should try to work it back in on the regular because Scott Snyder has got another Batman title coming up. And I was like, Scott Snyder's back on Batman?
It's time to come back out of the Batcave and read the Bat comics that are not in the cave.
Right. It's time.
Yeah, it's time.
It's weird to call. I think it's Absolute Batman. Let me double check. It's weird to call a series that when that's like, isn't that kind of their branding for when they do like massive collections of?
Oh, maybe. All I can think of is like those. There's that McCormick's line of vodka. There's like Absolute Blueberry, Absolute Vanilla.
Okay, sure.
That's where my brain went. Was like Absolute, but like without the E.
Well, I swear they used to, when they'd compile like a big omnibus type collection, but they'd go all out with a nice cover, nice art, maybe redo the colors or something. I could be wrong.
I think you're on the right track. I don't know if it was Absolute or not, but like, yeah, something like that, like definitive Batman or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, why would you convolute your brand like that? Why would you start a thing under a different brand title and then change that thing to something completely different? It'd be like if we started something called Grawlix Nights, reserved specifically for our interview episodes, and then it just kind of became the show later.
Yeah,
in this totally different thing.
Right. Or we used Grawlix Bites for basically anything we wanted it to be.
Grawlix Bites, yeah.
Grawlix Bites is just whatever.
Oh, do you want me to? Hold on, you're covering yourself. She doesn't want to be.
Ignore me is what she would say if she were on the screen or the mic. Yeah. I don't remember what we were talking about. So, while they get that figured out, there we go. Oh, here we are. We're back. Okay.
There's a stop cam button right there. Instead, I just removed myself from the stream because I was like, "What? How do I stop the camera?"
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I do want to pull this up real quick because this is a little bit of news. Have you seen anything about a ridiculous Batman logo? People are upset about it.
Why? Is it a bat? Like, what is it?
It's a chonker, as I've seen people say.
Oh, come on, like the Batfleck logo was a chonker, wasn't he?
I mean, I think it's
the chonkiest chonk of batness ever.
As a logo, it's goofy and a little dumb, but in the context, like, since he actually has it on his chest, I agree. It looks dumb, but I'm not upset about it because who cares? This isn't going to help the radio people. I'm sorry, but if anything,
we'll try to describe
it. Yeah. Search Absolute Batman logo. But that's the logo.
Oh, that is. That's on.
It's a chunk.
Oh, it is. It's on him. I see it.
It's actually on the outfit.
I can kind of see it as just a text thing that is on like the comic itself, but like it's on his body, and it's just a rectangle with zigzags. It barely looks like a bat.
Yeah, it just looks like a black box on his chest. It is weird to have it actually on his suit because it is just a big rectangle with some spikes. It's like both minimalist but also not at all because it's
Yeah.
just a big black box.
It's like if
But
your logo was a rectangle. It's because it's almost a rectangle.
it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. Like you said, yeah, I agree. With the text, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine for a like. It almost is just like when you select box instead of like drop shadow or something on your text, it's just a background box or whatever behind it.
Right.
But to then just have that be a big black bar across his chest is pretty strange.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. I mean, like,
But
so yeah. For those of you who aren't watching the video, it does like they put the absolute Batman inside of it, and that looks fine. That looks like what it's for. But then, yeah, then they put it on him, and that's less impressive. So okay, I get it now. It does barely look like a bat.
this is not even the conversation I expect to be having. But I was like, wait, absolute Batman. I know why that even popped up in my feed. But I'm glad it did. I've been so out of touch with the comics. But I was like, what's this? And then yeah, it's non-canon. It's basically a Elseworlds style alternate take
Mm,
on Batman, which is like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But
sure.
Scott Snyder's writing it, so I'm instantly interested. Oh, I know what it was. The first time I seen it pop up was somebody on social media is like, James Gunn, you got to fix this logo. This looks terrible. And he's like, the comics are not my jurisdiction.
Yeah, I'm not
So,
even hired for that, man.
yeah, he
That's
has no
funny.
control over the comics side of the business. Hey, Melanie,
Hey, I'm here.
Hey.
Yep,
how's it going?
it's okay. My audio, or I couldn't hear anything for a minute, but I jacked into the Chromebook instead of the mixer, and now I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Oh, yeah, you can't hear us through the mixer like it's
No,
normally set up?
I don't know. Maybe I mixed up a button, but yeah, I can't.
Okay. Well, we'll fix that in the future. But hey, you worked around it.
Yep.
We haven't talked about a whole lot other than the fact that we didn't know what we were going to talk about, and then we started talking about Batman.
Ah, that's always a good
Weird,
place to
huh?
go.
Right. Um, how was the sunset?
It was freaking gorgeous, and then it started pouring on me, so I had to run away.
You know what I say about Thursdays.
They can get bent.
They can.
Yep.
They really can.
Yeah.
That reminds me, you should go to a. I need which
Strangers with T-shirts.com.
Yes, I was trying to. Yeah, strangers with T-shirts. I shouldn't have set up both. Strangers with T-shirts or just strangers with shirts. But yes, strangerswitht-shirts.com. Thursdays can get bent. That's a T-shirt. If you feel like Thursdays can also get bent,
You could wear it on a
You should-
Thursday and just
you can
tell
wear it-
Thursday what you think.
Yep. There's
Or
many
what I
others
think.
also. That's not the
Yeah.
only one we got. There's lots.
Right. You could tell
It's-
other days
it-
off. No, I mean
it's the punk.
that's actually the only day themed shirt that you have, right?
There's a Friday the 13th one I released once.
Oh, they can get bent.
Yeah.
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 There may be
I-
more in the works too later in life, but
Oh.
not yet.
Right. There's lots of great shirts there. We actually uploaded some this year.
I believe they're
I
on
think-
sale right now too. I think there's like a Labor Day, like an early Labor Day sale going on.
Oh, you're right.
The
Starting at $16.
mhm.
It seems for
Yeah.
one day. Get on it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
Get
could
on
even
it.
you
Don't
could even
miss
put,
it.
Thursdays get bent on like a mug, probably, right?
Yes, you can.
Yeah,
What is
it's
the
not
Thursdays?
just shirts, guys. You could drink coffee too.
On mugs, you could get a sticker. Get it on a hoodie.
You can get it bent on anything.
That's right. If you got it on a sticker, you could bend the get bent onto another thing. I mean, stickers just go on anything. That's what's up.
All right. I wanted to make sure we were going live. We were actually broadcasting on
Yeah,
Helix Rock
we don't want
Radio.
them to miss
I
this.
like to make sure. Yeah, I mean, it's us promoting things they can't see anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, let's talk about some other stuff. First off, how are you two doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Oh, only 10 minutes into the show today,
Yeah.
as opposed to like 20, like a couple weeks ago.
I feel like I feel like we should mention this because we are part of a bigger podcast network,
Yes.
right? The Electronic Media Collective.com. It's a
Yep.
mouthful. And at once upon a time, we had a pseudo exclusive situation with a pro
Right,
wrestler,
okay.
Sid
I know where
Udy.
you're going.
And yeah, he recently passed away at age, was it 68? Complications with cancer. Is that true?
I mean, the cancer thing, I can't remember his age. That's his age. That sounds right. But yeah, the one article I saw said he'd been battling cancer for a couple of years, which I don't think was necessary. I mean, I didn't know, but I don't think that was something that was widely publicized. People usually don't,
Yeah.
which is fair.
Yeah.
They can keep their private lives private. But yeah, he passed this week.
And I don't know. Are those episodes still available on electronic media?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it was a great podcast. It was a limited run. You know, it didn't run. I mean, I ran several episodes. It was on for a while, a couple of years, wasn't it, or at least a year?
Yeah, it ran. Here, let me double check how many episodes there were. What we're talking about is Vicious Circle Podcast. Electronicmediacollective.com is the best way to find it. The Vicious Circle Podcast ran for 83 episodes.
Yeah.
82, 83 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed, like the ones that I heard, and especially the early ones, because he went into his life, and to be honest, I enjoyed him as a wrestler, but I hadn't gone into his upbringing or anything like that, so it was all new information to me, and it was told pretty compellingly. It was, it was a fun podcast. So,
Did he have all the tea about the wrestling world?
oh, he had opinions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
He was not shy. Man was not shy.
That's fun.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was, I mean, you may or may not agree with everything that Sid had to say, but
Right.
You were definitely going to be intrigued by it. So,
Yeah, it was produced and co-hosted by Rob from Movie Madhouse podcast, and he was a big fan, a huge wrestling fan, and he managed to. I don't remember how it came about, but he befriended Sid, and they did that podcast, 80-something episodes. But yeah,
did you say 83?
check that out.
Was that 83 episodes?
83 episodes.
That's
I'll say
crazy.
82.
Oh, okay.
But it was
hoping
83
because WCW was beating WWE for 83 weeks, so that would have been like a fortuitous coincidence right there. But that's fine.
Oh yeah, no, it was 83 episodes.
All right, 83. It's a magic number. 3. It's a magic number.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't believe
It's
in
all- that's-
numerology. Sorry.
It's always a weird thing, especially and specifically related to, that's not he's Vicious Circle wasn't currently active, like it had ended a couple years ago maybe.
Sure.
But he's not the first wrestling podcaster to pass that was been involved with the network. That's a bummer. But whatever, I guess that's just knowing humans.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Humans.
Odds are they're going to pass away.
Yeah.
And that's not to make light of things. I mean, we are
No. That's because
our
it's awkward to
condolences
talk
the
about.
family. Yeah. I mean,
This is how I deal with awkward, serious issues on Grawlix podcast.
Humor is our defense mechanism against emotions.
Yeah, we don't need those things. Emotions.
Yeah. We replaced those with Monster energy drinks.
That's right.
And salt.
Not sponsored.
All the salt.
It is a ritual. The Monster, while podcasting, it's a ritual.
Yeah. Along with
for me. Okay, moving on. No, I'm glad you mentioned that though, and I do feel like maybe I did not handle that conversation well because there's like people will be like when we're doing like maybe entertainment news and they'll be like, oh, so and so passed, like some celebrity, and I'm just like, I ain't talking about that. I mean, in this case, I'm definitely glad you brought it up, but mainly because it's like, well, Grawlix, we're so kind of like goofy anyway, and I'm like, they don't want us to talk about them if they, I mean, they don't want for anything anymore. But if they did, they wouldn't want to be handled, maybe treated in this kind of a light manner.
It's one of those things where it's like we promoted the podcast for a while, and it's a part of the EMC history, and
yeah.
I mean, it was what it was, and I think we can be proud of the fact that they were associated with us, and so it is sad to see him go. And
right,
our condolences go out to the family and friends.
Yes.
Well, never mind. Not important, but yes, I totally agree. I was just gonna say, and in terms of the shows on the network, on the podcast network, that is not something I have directly produce. I had a lot more involvement with that show in little ways, a lot of promotional stuff and things like that, cover art, stuff like that, than most other shows on that network. Because if it's not, because I'm not looking to do a bunch of free work, but that show was different. We had an agreement worked out, and so I was a little bit more involved in that than the usual other shows.
Yeah, I remember it was weird because the podcast host was like 12 hours from us and from Sid. So, and we think maybe we were for him. Maybe it was like a triangle of 12 hours apart from each other.
Oh.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. Yeah, because Rob's up in Canada, and Sid was kind of down south from us even, and we're in the middle of the U.S. So imagine. Well, I guess it's not totally crazy, but like because they do remote recordings.
Oh, sure.
I was about to say, imagine having your co-host be in another country, and that's not completely crazy. But what does make it a little crazy is how often Rob would travel to record in person.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
For real. Because I think, didn't Sid prefer that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Rob's just like, yeah, I'll I'll put down my maple syrup, stop by a couple of Tim Hortons on the way.
Right, yeah.
Rob is from Movie Madhouse podcast. Like I've had a lot of interaction with him then because of that, and being on the network. Like they're one of the longest running shows on the network still.
Absolutely,
they're I feel like they kind of fell into our route maybe before we did. I don't think they're putting out audio episodes anymore, but they're streaming every week, if not multiple times a week.
All right, yeah.
So yeah.
Who needs a legacy?
Right.
Yeah.
Vapid disposable content. That's what we want.
Yeah, because I was gonna say someday in the future they'll come back and they'll be like, "You said this," and I'll be like, "Oops, I did." Randy should have censored me, dang it.
Yeah, we didn't get Grawlix on that one. Whoops.
I think about that with some of my old shows. Saturday Morning Dubcast was one that was uncensored, yet there were still things I did have to censor. Melanie, we were talking about that actually just like a couple days ago. Things that don't fly now.
Oh man. Oh,
But
speaking of things that don't fly now, if we can use that as a segue.
yeah, please do. Let's get out of this
Okay,
hole.
I've been using. Okay, so I've been reading or listening to audiobooks by Stephen King lately,
Okay.
and so
Oh.
yeah, so I got a hold of On Writing, so his book about writing, but it's very much just kind of like a memoir, right? And it was really compelling, and so it made me want to seek out some like newer Stephen King, right? And so I started the fairy tale, or no, not the fairy tale, it's fairy tale, and it's pretty thick. I mean, like it's a big book.
Oh,
It's not
right.
the
Yeah.
stand, but it's like half of the stand, basically. Like it's
It's beefy.
it's chunky. It's chunky like a Batman logo.
I had to cut my audio because that was loud. Yeah, yeah. Good call. Good call. That's our new. That's a new unit of measurement here.
Yeah, it's 3 Batman logos wide.
That's
So,
huge.
It's huge. Yeah, no, it's good, and it was real good, and surprisingly, like because I haven't listened to or read Stephen King in a while, but I always kind of come back to Stephen King stuff because I have a fondness for it. And so after this, I was like, what else is like this, right? Because I really enjoyed this. And just a quick synopsis of it is like it's about a teenage boy who kind of befriends and takes care of this old curmudgeon who's just like a hermit and nobody knows him, and he just like holes up in his house, and the kids in town call it the psycho house because it looks like the Norman
Okay.
Bates the house that mother stays in. And yeah, so like he befriends this guy, and this guy is like oddly wealthy, but he does nothing, right? And so it becomes this whole thing like there's the Stephen King thing about it, but he's basically taking care of this old guy who like really got hurt kind of thing, like really just he fell off a ladder and really hurt himself kind of deal. And I think
Okay.
I think Stephen King is pulling off of his own experience of getting hit by a van
Right.
and that whole thing. And this old guy slowly begins to trust the kid, and he lets him in on the secret, and there's like a portal to another world in his shed. But it's got like
Oh.
all these fairy tale elements to it, but in only the way that Stephen King can do it, So it's like creepy, and they're swearing, and there's all sorts of stuff, right? I mean,
Sure.
it's still Stephen King. So I thought, because I burned through that, like that was basically my escapism. I didn't watch TV. I just listened to this audiobook. And I highly recommend Fairy Tale. It's good. It's really good. I'm holding it up for the audio listeners.
I like that. Okay, so you listen to the audiobook,
Mm-hmm.
but you also actually have the physical book there. You keep holding up.
Yeah. I actually bought the physical book first, and then I was just like, I need to like read this, but I don't have any
Okay.
time.
I like that you did both. I'm sure the Stephen King does too.
Oh, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. His entire estate loves that I have multiple.
Yeah.
Well, it's
ways
kind
to-
of like buying a digital copy of an album and then being like, I want to support this artist. I'm going to buy a record or something, cassette, whatever.
Well, and how I
Anyway.
get audiobooks is like there's a lot of ways to get audiobooks. You can get it from the library. You can get it from.
Right.
We use a service that's like Netflix called Everand, or it used to be Scribd, and basically you pay a monthly fee, and they have access to a certain library, and the library rotates and stuff. And there's a lot of Stephen King on Everand, so I basically Netflix this audiobook.
Right.
And so, he still gets his money probably from them, but he probably doesn't get as much as he did from a physical
The book.
The
Yeah.
fact that I bought the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did On Writing. I did Fairy Tale. I recommend Fairy Tale. I enjoyed On Writing as well. Stephen King actually reads that one. There's a great narrator that does Fairy Tale, and Stephen King plays a part in it. Like there's a scene in the book where it's like the old guy is basically leaving an audio record or journal for
Oh, okay.
the kid Charlie, in case anything goes wrong, kind of deal, And spoilers, something goes wrong. It's Stephen King. Something goes wrong, and so Stephen King plays the old guy on the audio recording, and that was pretty cool because Stephen King's a pretty good audio book narrator in his own right.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. So here's where we get to it doesn't age well.
Okay.
I was looking for books like Fairy Tale, and I was like, you know what I've always meant to listen to or read is The Talisman, because it ties in to the Dark Tower sort of, and it's very, and so like I even asked AI, I was like, what are books that are like Fairy Tale? You know, I thought, this is a question for Chat GPT.
Right.
You people who hate the robots. And this was one that, you know, The Talisman was one that they recommended. So I was like, all right, it's time. I'm going to listen to The Talisman. Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, you just think about like just movies in general in the 90s and
Right.
what made Stephen King. He was one of those people that was willing to push the envelope. You know,
Yeah.
like what makes him good? He was one of those people that's kind of shocking, you know, and he was not afraid to do that. In fact, in the early days, I would say that he probably made more impact as someone who is writing shocking books than
Yeah.
good books. I mean, not that he wasn't a good author, but like he got really good. Like he's really good now. He is Stephen King, but back then he was kind of like. I don't know. There's a formula, you know. There's like always a bully. There's always an alcoholic. He was working through his own personal demons. They were always doing coke, you know, like all the things he was actually doing. And so like, there's just some cringeworthy stuff in this, you know, kind of like there's some bad stuff in it that doesn't really.
Right.
It's like you probably shouldn't put that in your book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And same kind of deal here where it's like, oh no, when we look back in time and we talk about like there are roles where like a black man of color would be thrown into like a stereotype or a thing. Like there's the magical black man. Like that's
Right.
there's a character in this that is the magic black man and he rhymes everything. Like he's like a musician.
Oh, no.
He's a black musician who rhymes everything and talks in kind of a jivey sort of dialect
Sure.
or cadence or whatever, and it's so bad and cringy. And then he has these yucky characters that infer things, and like it's just like, ugh, Stephen King, man. Oh, there's some things he did that just didn't age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think he's necessarily known for. It's interesting because it's not something I hear people talk about a lot. But yeah, because you can being an author and framing certain things, and I mean, even Green Mile is kind of has got a little bit of the magical black man thing going on. A little bit. I mean, you know, a lot. But there's a little bit, I feel like, more relevant context there. But I don't,
You definitely get to see him grow, not only as an author, but as a human being in the course of his career. Like, I think his books now are as good as they've ever been. I think that he has, like, his views have grown. Like, he's a smart cat, you know? And so
Right.
I don't think he would ever write a book the way he used to write his books. But at the time,
Right.
it was acceptable, and he was pushing what was acceptable. And I feel like sometimes he just pushed a little too far. But
it is
he's
interesting
writing
because, well, and he's a little bit of an edgelord, a little bit of an edgelord, and you know,
It probably the magical black guy thing. I think it's probably. I don't think that's necessarily meant to be like disrespectful, but he grew up in Maine. There was probably like no black people, and he thought they were magical and whatever, you know. And this is like him trying to show that or something.
Well, I also
We're
wonder
using
because
that type of character so much.
he's also like he's a musician, so he probably did know a lot of black musicians on the scene at the time, and he was probably trying to be relatively honest and like reverent to the character
Yeah, that's what I
by
was saying.
including them. But like in
Right.
hindsight, it looks bad.
They're
If he wrote it now, he'd be canceled. It was
there's
yeah.
I don't know. There's prejudices that people don't realize that's what it is. Like, and it is, and I feel like there's probably a lot of people that just don't recognize it, and that's where you get things like microaggressions and stuff. Uh,
I also think that he didn't like. He gets a lot of flack about these books now. Like people go back and they want to judge.
Sure.
They want to judge those books based on the morals and the social climate of today, and you just can't. They're just totally different worlds.
Right.
It is pretty wild to, and I watch a lot of older movies still, and especially 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, like movies you'll watch, and you're just like, how was this okay? But then thinking back to it, it's just like, I don't know. It just was. It's obviously it wasn't. It's not. It's real weird now, and it's not proper now. And how did we not recognize that? Yeah, those are some pretty crappy stereotypes to keep perpetrating in like the biggest of budget movies and big mainstream stuff, and not just like weird niche things or whatever, but like sitcoms. And they hung around forever, and it's pretty weird. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It is changing sensibilities is a thing.
And I don't
A
think
while
he would write a
ago,
book like that. Like now he writes a lot of female protagonists, and in the past, a lot of times his female characters were going to be kind of the like Carrie. But also, arguably, Carrie is the protagonist. She's bullied. She's the victim. She's also the monster.
kind of the villain.
yeah,
yeah.
she's kind of the villain too. Firestarter, same thing. Little girl, like
Mm-hmm.
she can't be held accountable because she's a child that was like essentially abused in a sense, right? But also, she starts fires.
Yeah. Well, maybe if they would just leave her alone.
Yeah.
Those are interesting characters, though. The sympathetic. Yeah, I don't know. Carrie's like not the villain, the monster. That's the right way to put it. It's like Frankenstein. Frankenstein's
She's turned
monster, right?
into a monster. It's not
Right.
necessarily her fault, but like she's the one. She does a lot of damage too.
Yeah.
And a story like that, you can understand it. You're like, okay, yeah, no, it's horrible that she burned her whole class alive. That's messed up. But also, like, it takes you through her journey where you're like, I kind of get it. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
It touches on them. It makes you realize that there could be a monster in any one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
For some reason, that makes me think of. I think it was called like "I'm Not Okay with This" with that girl that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or this
that
is
one.
not okay or something.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that show needed a second season.
I
That was
agree.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Very, very Carrie-ish in concept, for sure.
Yeah.
There was something else we watched recently. I can't remember what it was, where it was basically like, Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah.
That one's different because at a certain point you're like, this chick, she's kind of a villain, and it doesn't seem justified at all.
Yeah.
But they were pulling from things like Carrie and stuff.
Right.
Heathers.
I don't think they were trying to make the same point.
Speaking of things that should have got a second season and are getting a second season, I noticed you posted a thing today in the Grawlix podcast group on Facebook, if you're interested.
Yeah, facebook.com/group/Grawlix podcast. I was excited to see that. I'm sorry I cut you off, didn't I? The Devil's Hour season 2. The Devil's Hour was that show. Was that Amazon? I just read the article
I want to
earlier
say
today.
it was Amazon, yeah.
That's the show with slight spoilers on season 1. That's the show with Peter Capaldi as a serial killer, possibly killing children. So like a real bad serial killer, but it turns out he's actually just Doctor Who again. he's not really a bad. I mean, he is and isn't a bad guy. It's a little bit of a Carrie situation where it's like he's kind of doing bad things, but it eventually you're like, wait, I get it though.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's traveling through time and space, and he knows things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is so it was so funny when eventually, like, as the series going, you're like, wait a second, this is just the Doctor again. What are you doing?
He's just the Doctor, only he's cranky again.
Yeah, again, PCAP, you can't fool us.
Fool me
But
once.
season one left off on a kind of a crazy cliffhanger where you're like, oh, that's pretty bold. Like, if you actually make it to another season, that's a bold, not corner they wrote themselves into, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't really undo that, what you set up here.
Yeah.
And thankfully, October, I want to say 18th, but that's probably wrong. Sometime in October, season 2 is actually happening. 2 years after. I hate TV series are in such a weird way.
You gotta like rewatch the whole thing. I mean, like that. There's a lot of nuance in that first season.
Yeah,
Like,
there's a lot
how
of
am I supposed to
details.
remember all of that.
There's a lot of details, especially since it's one of those shows where you're in the dark about a lot of things up until a certain point.
Right.
And in which case, I feel like if you rewatch the series after that point, you'll probably catch a whole lot more.
Yeah.
But
But also, it's kind of an uncomfortable show.
yeah.
It was like, there's shows you're like, yeah, I'm going to do a rewatch. And on this one, you're like, oh, but this guy's a monster. And he's at home with this kid that's maybe autistic or maybe a spaceman.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I remember being super excited because it was kind of billed or marketed a little bit like a thriller horror thing. And I think it does have that. It does have that vibe.
Yeah, I agree.
But then it definitely did take a sci-fi turn at a certain point, which is fine. But yeah.
Yeah, we are gonna have to rewatch it because I'm trying to think about it, and I think I keep mushing it in with that one show where there's like that evil baby that kills everybody that takes care of it. You know?
Oh yeah, on that was on Max.
Yeah.
That only got one season. What was that? I can't remember what it's called, but that.
Oh, I remember you guys talking about it now. Yeah, it was like
That's a show that like. Just kind of by its vibe and like the scenarios it would put a baby in, I was like, this is not going to be a popular show with people. There's just certain things people do not respond well to, and that show was full of it, but it was pretty good. I can't remember what it was, but it was basically like demonic baby, but not handled in a
Omen, but he didn't grow up. He was just a baby.
Yeah, very much like that.
Yeah, and you know, somebody's always gonna go and get the baby. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, and I think there was like a dog, like an animal, not for real, in the show, of course, animal death pretty early on. That I was like, oh, this show's not gonna do well. You can't put that in if you want your series to like. You can't do that.
You got to put babies in peril on the regular and kill a dog. Come on.
Right. It's a good show though. But yeah, The Devil's Hour, that was very good, and I'm excited that it's getting another season.
Yeah.
Yes.
Melanie and I today watched a couple episodes of a new show that dropped today on Netflix. Called, what is it even called? Is it Terminator Zero?
Oh,
I'm not sure.
Terminator. We'll just say anime. I don't want anime link. That's old news. Anime leak. Terminator Zero. It's basically Terminator the anime, but it's Terminator Zero. Dropped on Netflix today. It had been pretty much leaked online in its entirety earlier this month. Like anime had Netflix, not just their anime series, but particularly their anime series had like a big, I don't know, big leak, big compromise or something earlier this month or last month, and full episodes and full series of stuff that hadn't been released yet dropped, and apparently not in good quality. And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna bother trying to search out this stuff that would be illegal to do so. But yeah, I was actually kind of excited. The trailers looked cool. I was like, they were definitely picking up the Terminator 1 and 2 vibe, as you do. You follow a franchise up until people are like, yeah, no, then it went to crap, and you ignore those.
Yeah, then you start shoehorning in prequels right before the good ones, or in the middle,
Right.
or whatever.
And so, but this one's also interesting because it is anime and is set so far that we've seen in Tokyo, and I'm like, that makes sense. I mean, the machines aren't just gonna take over the world in America. They're gonna take over the world everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So we've only watched 2 episodes in. Not a whole lot, like not enough to really hook us to know how good it's gonna be. But I do enjoy it so far. What did you think of the 2 episodes we watched, Melanie?
I think it set up stuff you basically know what's going on. But the characters are pretty boring. The most interesting people maybe are the kids, and I kind of want to smack their dad and their nanny. So I don't know how much I'm gonna like it if the characters don't start behaving better, because they've done just the stupidest things they could possibly do at every turn, except for that one. She was the hero chick or whatever. She's pretty bad, but other than that, and even still, even being that way, she's still stupid and she says stupid things and does stupid things. All the characters are stupid, but other than that, it's okay.
Melanie will smack your nanny.
Smack your nanny. Stop spacing off in the bathroom. What are you doing? The kids are running away.
Well, yeah, that's true. And she cut herself in front of the kid because she was spacing off. Space off while you're cutting stuff. That's stupid.
Right. Especially while you're thinking about how you grew up in a fish market town and you should be really good at what you're doing. That's what the conversation started with. And then you prove that you're not really that good.
Such an anime thing to have like an inner monologue where you're like, I used to do this. Remember when I was at the fish market?
Yeah.
I had seen a lot of like leading up to this. This is something I've actually like once I seen the trailer, I was like, okay, so I've been like waiting kind of anxiously for this to hit Netflix. And like, so I've been hitting Reddit, seeing kind of what the consensus are, what people think leading up to it. And there's some opinions are like, anime aesthetic doesn't fit Terminator. But I think, I don't know. I don't think it matters. I think it works well. It's not fitting Terminator to the anime aesthetic. You fit the anime aesthetic to Terminator. And,
right.
I think they did that pretty
perfect.
well.
Sounds like a marriage made in heaven.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. Yeah.
Humble Bundle. I believe.
Oh, really?
I believe there's a Terminator Humble Bundle.
Oh, that sounds like marketing synergy.
I think that if you are interested in some good adaptation of Terminator, you go on down to grawlixpodcast.com/humble and look at the bundles, because there's always a good comic bundle going on, even if I'm wrong.
Oh, interesting. Dynamite Comics Terminator bundle, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. We're that URL will take you through an affiliate link of ours, by the way. We're a humble partner. I've never read any Terminator comics. I don't think.
RoboCop Terminator was a fun Dark Horse comic I read.
Oh, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
In fact, that sounds so perfect. There's a Grawlix Cinematic Universe episode that from a while back that you can check out at grawlixpodcast.com, in which we Jasper and I watched and reviewed the first RoboCop and the first Terminator, and then pitched what our ideas for a RoboCop v Terminator franchise would look like.
Man, we're just going to talk about all the old stuff today. That's the thing. Just go back
just
to
all the old stuff.
Yeah, electronicmediacollective.com, and just use the search.
Yeah.
Right. That's actually a good way to go about it. Yeah, I need to get rid of some of the old posts on the Grawlix website. Mainly, not like all the old posts, not the reviews or anything, but like I used to
all
post
that big Finnish crap.
No. No, that stuff's
kidding.
great. And I think every once in a while I go and back all that up. Just like some of the image links might have been broke at some point, but like
sure.
I back all that up just to, because I was like, no, that's good. And Jesse put a ton of time into those reviews. And those reviews used to pull in quite a bit of traffic. I haven't checked lately, but the weekly comics release lists I used to post make it so that when you search for a topic or a comic or something on the Grawlix site, you get so many completely irrelevant posts that pop up in your results from all those new release lists. And it's like, oh, cool, new release list from 2014. That's real helpful.
But Electronic Media Collective, you wouldn't have that, right?
Right, Electronic Media Collective, you wouldn't have that. Yeah, that just got me thinking about the Grawlix site.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? No, I'll get off the Terminator thing. You guys don't care. Melanie definitely doesn't care, but I have almost completed my 50-something movie Godzilla list.
Oh my goodness. What era are you in now? You in the 90s yet?
Yes. I am. So in terms of, I'm current, really. I mean, for the most part, I'm through the 90s. I'm through the millennium era, which was the started like 99. But
did you watch the Matthew Broderick one?
I watched the Matthew Broderick one. I wasn't going to.
You are a completionist, sir.
I did. I went OCD on this thing. I wasn't going to. I finished. I might have wedged it in after Godzilla. I think Godzilla 2000 Millennium and Godzilla versus Megaguirus, which was 2000. After those, one of those had a jab at the Godzilla movie, at the 98 Godzilla, where like at the beginning they're kind of, because like the Millennium era is weird, where every movie, there's two of them that are direct sequels to each other, or continuity, but every movie pretty much is like, okay, forget everything, here's our continuity. The first Godzilla movie and maybe nothing else, or the first Godzilla movie and Mothra. Like, it'll just randomly pick which movies it's like, this is canon, everything else is nonsense.
Man, Japan, they just like to do that, man. They were like,
right,
you know what you know about this anime, most of that is okay, but now the slant happens.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, was it Godzilla 2000? It might not have been. Might have been the one after that. But one of them's like the first Godzilla, and then 98 Godzilla. Why would you lump that in here? But it was a good jab, because like it's like the Godzilla. I don't know if it was the G Grips or the G Force or whichever random Godzilla like military faction they come up with for various movies.
Yeah.
But it was like a guy talking to some of his cadets, but basically telling the audience like what's canon.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, in 98 there was a monster attack off the on the eastern coast of America, New York City, and it cuts to like a couple of the cadets, and one of them looks at another one's like, was that Godzilla? And the other one's like, well, the American experts seem to think so, but we're not so sure. I was like, oh, that was pretty good.
Funny.
But then by the time we get to Final Wars, Zilla shows up. He's the only all CGI monster in the movie.
No.
And then it immediately gets stomped by real Godzilla and then moves on. And I was like, that's good. It's good. But yeah, at some point in there, I was like, they made him canon. I have to go watch that. I have to watch that.
Yeah, gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah.
It's terrible. I don't know that I've ever actually.
I don't know that.
I don't think I've ever actually watched the whole thing.
Been made.
No.
Like, I don't know what they thought.
The filmmakers didn't want to make Godzilla. Like, first off, it's Roland Emmerich, and I don't like the blockbuster disaster movie, which is what that is. Roland Emmerich style movie. I don't I kind of loathe those movies. They're so cheesy and like, yeah, great effects usually, but like bad. I like Matthew Broderick. His character's weird though, and has like no personality other than kind of timid,
Mhm.
and then stand there till he needs to do a thing. But I don't know. It's weird. It's weird.
They wanted to make Jurassic Park but bigger, I think.
They did.
Oh, I think you're right.
When
yeah,
did Jurassic
that's
Park
right.
3 happen? Was that the one where they finally put a dinosaur in a city?
I want to say yes.
Or was that
because
2?
Oh, 2, that happened a little bit, but I think in 3 they brought him there on purpose or something.
Okay, 3 was 2001, 2 was 97, Godzilla was 98. Yeah, I mean, they clearly they were like Jurassic Park. We're gonna make this an iguana not pterodactyl, iguana. What was the big hot new dragon when Jurassic Park, or hot new dinosaur when Jurassic Park came out? Velociraptor.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
And Zilla's very much like a iguana velociraptor looking thing.
right. I knew it was much more of a lizard for sure.
I don't want to get too far into all these. Yeah, I actually like the Millennium so far. Even though when I look through them, I think I rated more of the Millennium era movies higher, just because I don't know, they're all a bit more popcorny. They're like faster paced and kind of fun.
Right.
But so far, the Heisei, the 80s and 90s movies, I think are my favorite of the, like, in terms of an era.
Yeah. Aside from the original, which is always going to be kind of its own thing.
So outside of there's an anime the trilogy of anime Godzilla movies for Netflix, which I have not watched yet, and they're rated very low, but I'll probably watch them at some point. I watched 98 Godzilla. I'll have to watch those. But outside of those, the only Godzilla movie with Godzilla in the title that I haven't watched yet is Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire. So like the most recent.
Right. Well, before you watch that, you should really watch the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla cartoon.
No.
You're not going that far, huh?
No. You know what? Maybe not the whole thing. Maybe I'll check some of it out, because the list I initially found for this is kind of extremely excessive in that, like, it included weird stuff that they claimed like ties into Godzilla at some point, and a lot of it did. Like Final Wars, they pulled so many monsters, and I was like, this kind of feels like my trophy for watching all those movies is like they're all here.
Yeah. So
even though Final Wars is a Matrix fanfic fever dream of a movie. But they included, what is this? Godzilla, Kaiju Bunraku. I'm probably I know I'm mispronouncing that, but it's like a 13-minute short film in the style of, is it Bunraku? Whatever, like traditional Japanese puppet theater. Which is this weird story
like
that involves
puppets, right?
Not so much shadow puppets. It's where they're like good-sized puppets, but like performed on a stage, and they just have the people that are puppeting them in all black.
Right.
And it's actually, Jesse, you should check that out. You probably like it. It's puppets, man. Yeah. I even watched that Godzilla versus Bambi from like the 70s, which was this like animated
like claymation, right? Wasn't it?
No, it's like pencil on paper, really. Like it's rough, but it was like late 60s, early 70s, so somebody had to film it. But that apparently is like so beloved that some people are just like, yeah, put that in there. That's canon. So there's like some pretty obscure stuff, and I have committed to it. So maybe I'll have to check out some of the old Godzilla series that I am more familiar with than a lot of these movies, because that got ran over here. That Godzilla cartoon.
Yeah, it did.
I do want to mention real quick, Chibi Godzilla raids again. on YouTube. It's on the official Toho channel on YouTube. You gotta watch it. It's great. They're just like 2 to 3 minute cartoons. The characters they're chibi versions of all the characters. It's super like cutesy looking, but legitimately funny.
Oh.
I enjoy those quite a bit. It looks like it's made for kids, and it's not extremely adult, but it's a little adult at times. So I'm like, kids aren't, I don't think, really the direct audience for this. It wouldn't be completely it's not as raunchy as anything that you might associate with like Adult Swim, but it would be completely out of place on Adult Swim. The only thing is I can only watch so many at a time because it's in Japanese, so you got to click on the YouTube subtitles, and it's so fast. It's not that I can't keep up. It's just like reading it, like it's so fast that I can only watch so many where I'm like, okay. I gotta stop. Anyway, that's a recommend. I'm gonna stop talking about Godzilla now.
Okay.
But you know what else I discovered? The Zatoichi TV series.
Oh no!
All 4 seasons are on Tubi. All 4 seasons are on Tubi. That show is notoriously hard to find in a legal manner online, but it's on Tubi now, and it looks great. Go watch it. You're gonna love it.
All right.
I'm done. Weebing out.
I don't think I got anything else.
Well,
Melanie, did you watch anything?
No, I didn't finish anything. I think I watched some episodes of things, but that's it. I don't consume enough stuff. I just meme
she just memes.
and
All right.
I read science articles, but those don't count.
Well, speaking of science articles, I mean, it's kind of amazing that we really didn't watch anything this week.
Yeah. You know what else?
We talked about news this week. That was weird. That was amazing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know what else is amazing?
What?
Space. Okay. SpaceX is about to launch 4 private astronauts farther than any human has flown since the end of the Apollo missions. If it's successful, it will also be the first commercial spacewalk ever done. The mission's called Polaris Dawn, and it was delayed from launching on August 27th because of bad weather and a helium leak. But it is scheduled to launch as early as tomorrow if everything seems okay. From NASA's Kennedy Space Center. And along with furthering the reach of private space exploration, SpaceX is also using the event as a fundraiser for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and so far have amassed $250 million in donations, which is a great thing. Good. Yeah, if they're gonna,
Wait, hold up. Is this still an Elon Musk company? Because that all sounds good.
Well, I mean, private space travel costs a lot of money and it kind of pollutes the environment, so it's not necessarily that great. But if we want to ever go anywhere, it's probably necessary. But they use the donations as a write-off, and then they don't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
All right, calm down, Helix Rock Radio. It's fine. It's Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like that Walmart thing of rounding up, like, you want to round up and donate to charities. Like, that's cool, but I don't want to have to be paying your taxes, Walmart, because you're just going to write all that off for taxes.
Right.
Yeah.
The game.
So I don't know what their plan is for this trip, but it kind of sounds like one-way ticket. Is this the thing we were talking about the other night, Melanie?
Yeah, it's not a one-way ticket. They're going very far, and then they're gonna get out of the spaceship, go around it, and then get back in and then come back, basically.
Okay, they're gonna go far, do a spacewalk, and then come back.
Yes. And I don't really understand why, but I think it's just to he needs to flex and look good. I think is mainly the reason. Yeah.
When are they going to send? When's Elon going to Mars? Can we just send him there now?
Well, he probably have to wait until he gets his Neuralink stuff working so he can have a robot body, and then he'll go.
He doesn't. He doesn't need one. He just needs to go to Mars.
He's going to turn into the Terminator.
Oh,
he definitely needs to go to Mars.
The one way to make the Terminator scarier, make him just obnoxious Elon Musk clone.
Ugh.
He'll be like
he's like
cracking
most,
references while he
would
comes
be
at
the
you.
most ambivalent Terminator ever. He just like wouldn't care about anything.
Come with me if you want to live. Really? 42069. Then he'd leave.
Oh boy.
No, I was just kidding. I
brought a kitchen
to-
sink to Twitter just so I could throw it out.
Yeah.
I'm here to terminate the woke mind virus.
I can't believe he's suing companies for not advertising after he told them all to F off.
I've come to protect your free speech. Did I hear you talking trash on me? I'm going to sue you.
Yeah.
That's my Elon
Anyways,
Musk.
we're not political, right?
No, we're not political.
He's not
You
a
know
politician.
what? He's like Ultron.
He's just a douchebag. Sorry, what?
Was it James Spader's coming back for Ultron and Vision? The Vision TV show they were talking about?
A Vision TV show's happening?
Yeah, so
good, because I like
the single worst Marvel villain ever. Ultron.
Right. No, yeah. Interesting. Well, I like Paul Bettany's Vision. I like Paul Bettany, I think.
Yeah. Well, I like James Spader's voice as Ultron. I just didn't like the movie.
No, that movie sucked. The movie. Why are they trotting that out so they could set up some other movie or series? Because that's the problem with Age of Ultron. It was and you know, Whedon. We all know Whedon's problematic. Okay, we don't have to talk about it every time he's brought up, but Whedon knew the studio. Like if he hadn't pushed back against some of the stuff, like that movie would have been even worse. But it was such a obvious advertisement for the next movie, and it's not that most of them aren't, but at least most of the Marvel movies are usually decent or entertaining.
Right.
And Age of Ultron had its moments, but it leaned too heavy into.
Well, it's like, hey, you know what everybody loved about the first Avengers movie? The destruction. Let's make the destruction the movie and not a plot.
Right. And that Thor scene in the cave, just the flimsiest way to try to shoehorn it in setting up another thing. That reminds me, I read something the other day. Do you know how much Robert Downey Jr. is set to potentially make?
I cannot imagine what he must be.
Okay. Well, he's being paid to play Doctor Doom in the next two Avengers movies.
Right.
He's being paid $100 million. But he also, of course, is smart and has a bunch of other. He will potentially be making $200 million to come back and play as Doctor Doom. Yeah. That's more than the directors of the movies are going to be making. That's insane. And I'm sure Disney, because they, I can't remember their names, but they did the big earner Avengers movies. So I'm sure they're getting paid pretty handsomely to come back.
I mean, not that they're not talented and that it's great, and I know the movies make a lot of money, but actors are so overpaid, it's ridiculous. I mean, those types, the blockbuster actors. I mean, spread it out. Let some of the little people have some more money and give less to the other ones. You know what I mean?
Then there's people like Keanu Reeves who will just forego his own pay so that you can pay the CGI people or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
They're the real heroes.
Yeah.
That makes me want to see Keanu Reeves play Homelander.
Oh
You
man.
did, they're the real heroes is what popped in my head.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Well, I would say about the Robert Downey Jr. thing, for one, I guess good on him and or his agents for being like, "Oh, you want me back? You're gonna pay up for real hard." Um, like
I won an Oscar.
that's some serious hardball money. That's like, here's what we're talking. But also, how desperate Disney must be to like, we're losing them, we're losing them, we got to get them back. That they're gonna pay potentially $200 million to Robert Downey Jr. to play a role that is traditionally should just be masked the whole time.
Right. Yeah, that's the weird thing. It's like, man, all you need is somebody with a really good voice. Really good.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this.
Eyes that burn with rage. You need
Right.
Capaldi. That's who you need to play Doctor Doom.
That'd be kind of great. Okay, we should probably end this stream, huh? End the
Right.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything, Jesse, you got anything coming up that's exciting or anything you want to mention before we jump out of here?
Nothing that's really pressing. The next thing I have is NukeCon, I think is the thing. And I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but Worst and Mayhem is a comic that's happening on Kickstarter right now, and it's a D&D themed comic, and if it is still going, you should look for it on Kickstarter, and it's Worst spelled WURST, and Mayhem spelled the way you would spell Mayhem. So if you search that out on Kickstarter, you'll find it. It's great. It's an indie duo, and I just showed the people that are watching the video the first issue. Their second issue is coming out, and you can buy the first issue with the second issue. You know, the current Kickstarter model to put out multiple issues of a comic. And but it's going to be wrapping up pretty soon. So if you're interested in D&D humor comics, then you should get in while the getting's good.
Get in on the ground floor.
Yeah.
Dude,
Of all time.
Jesse, you are carrying the like old school Grawlix, the ways. You're like, this is the way. Because I recall, like, did we even have, I think we had a segment name for it. Because you, more often than you, because you're more keyed into the Kickstarter comic stuff, but covering Kickstarter comics was like a regular thing we'd do.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. I did do that.
And you mentioned Peter's, was it Peter?
Yeah.
Peter's last week. So
and it's funded. It's done now, so it's funded, and that's coming out. So he'll have an issue 3 on the way.
yeah, that was the one we were talking about last week. Yep.
That's because Jesse's
I like
consistent.
it.
That's right. It's all me.
So I feel like there was like Jesse's consistent. Randy.
Well, maybe a little bit.
You notice whose name I didn't just say?
Oh, huh?
Yeah.
It's okay. I said it. I don't disagree. Anyway. All right. I don't think I have anything too exciting. I've got a lot of work going on recently, which is good. So I haven't had too much time to do a lot of extra crap.
But you always go to the edge of the abyss.
I do. Thank you. See, I'm just off my game now. Like my brain is just scrambled at some point, because if there's one thing I used to be able to be consistent about, it was promoting anything and everything I was doing, like Edge of the Abyss, an extreme metal radio show I host every week on Helix Rock Radio. That's right. If you're listening to us there now, tune in about the same time tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern, and I'll be spinning a whole bunch of death metal, black metal, thrash metal, new releases, maybe some classic jams in there. I do that every Friday, and I'll be doing that tomorrow night because that's what I do.
You can even derail him by requesting a show if you go to abyss.show and put it on his Google form.
Mhm.
Yeah, you can. I do promote that link every episode. I don't get a whole lot. Uh, come offset Jesse's power metal or add to it. Throw a big wrench in it in my blogs because I don't play a lot of power metal, so I'll get a Jesse request. I'll be like,
where do I put
where
this?
do I put the power metal?
No, I know. Yeah.
But you know what? There's usually there's so much new music that comes out. Like, obviously, there's new music that comes out every week, but there's so much. I'm so surprised at how much metal specifically, like that genre.
It's alive.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and I'm not even talking about like mainstream metal, or like death metal, and black metal, and weird stuff. There's so much every week.
Something called death metal to be so alive.
And I found it a fairly positive community, which is also not what you'd expect.
Oh.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Grawlixpodcast.com, GRAWLAX podcast.com. We've been who we've been. I was about to launch it. I've been Randy, but it's like we don't do that.
We don't do that. No.
We used to do a movie
We
quotes.
used to do an outro. We don't do outros anymore. Now we just say bye.
Bye.